Henry Cole and Sam Lovegrove enjoy a challenge.
You seem excited.
I am incredibly excited. Why aren't you?
They find antique vehicles,
Oh, it's a nightmare.
restore them,
We're very close.
and make something amazing.
We can do what we want with it.
No matter what it is, if it's got an engine, they'll bring it back to life with style.
We're just ahead of the curve, mate.
Find it, fix it, drive it.
Tonight at 7.
Montana Ag Live is made possible by the Montana Department of Agriculture, the MSU Extension Service, the MSU Ag Experiment Stations of the College of Agriculture, the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, the Montana Bankers Association, Cashman Nursery and Landscaping, the Gallatin Gardeners Club, and the Rocky Mountain Certified Crop Advisor Program.
You are tuned to Montana Ag Live, coming to you from the studios of KUSM here on the campus of Montana State University. We're glad to have you with us again tonight, and hope you're getting ready for the snowstorm that's getting ready to move through Montana. We have some special guests tonight. I want to first introduce those. To my left is Lori Kurcinich. Lori is an extension insect diagnostician, housed in the Scudder Diagnostic Lab. And then we have several of our other regular panelists with us tonight. Mary Burrows is our extension plant pathologist. You all know Mary. Bruce is with us tonight. Bruce is a plant ecologist, I guess you would call it. And then Mary Saeed is our extension horticulturalist, and we're glad to have her with us tonight too. So we'll be getting to all of those panelists here a little bit later on. But let's begin with Lori tonight. She's going to be talking about the emerald ash borer, and that's an interesting topic, and hopefully she's got lots of good information for us. So take it away, Lori.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here today to talk about the emerald ash borer. It is a wood-boring beetle that was introduced into Detroit in 2002. It's invasive. It was introduced from Asia, and it has since spread to 35 states and 5 Canadian provinces. And so it is, because of the extent of its spread, it's considered the most economically and environmentally damaging pest that's entered the United States. And we are a very high-risk state, Montana is, because at least in about 20 of our communities, we have a lot of our boulevard trees are 40% or greater ash species. And some are even, in our historical districts, are even 75 to 80%. And it has not yet been detected in Montana, but this is a pest that spreads naturally, but by flying, and it also spreads through humans and through firewood, through infested nursery stock, and also through infested wood packing material like pallets. And we expect this pest to be in the state at some point, if it's not here already, and I don't want to cause a lot of panic. We're here kind of more for education, and rather than any sort of panic state here, but I'm sure people have a lot of questions, and a lot of people have probably heard about the pest already.
Okay, thanks, Lori. We'll come back to you with some more questions, I'm sure. So we're depending on you folks that are listening and watching tonight to call in. Our phone operators are Nancy Blake and Bruce Lobel. They're waiting for your calls. The number is on your screen there, so hopefully you'll send in all of your questions that you have. But let's begin with some questions from last week that were left over. Abby, I have a question for you. This is from Roundup. This person has tinted acrylic windows and gets lots of lights, but the plants don't do well. Is this due to the windows?
I actually don't know how those windows might affect the plants that are growing in the house. If they're getting additional growing lights, I don't think that those acrylic windows would really impact it. So I don't know about that. I'd love some more information. So if the client wants to give me a call at 994-6523, we can try and get to the bottom of what might be going on.
Okay, we'll hope they're watching this week and we'll get in touch with you. Mary, here's a question. It's very pertinent to this time of the year. The seeds I'm going to plant are very sensitive to seed decay and damping off. If I don't want to use a chemical seed treatment, what options do I have to ensure a good stand of plants? A lot of people are getting ready to plant, so give us some advice along that line.
Right. For the home garden and for large scale commercial producers, some of the best things you can do is actually just wait a while to plant, especially for those large seeded legumes, for the soil temperature to be above 55 degrees. And that really allows the plant to grow fast and escape those plant pathogens.
So don't get in too big a rush, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Bruce, this question came in last week. Wild oats are going to be an issue in my barley this year. What chemistry is best to minimize this weed? This came in from Townsend.
Well, I'm afraid I don't have a lot of modern information on that, but there are several herbicides that you can use on wild oats. Most all of them are most appropriate at a very early stage, at the 2 to 3 leaf stage, but if it's any later than that, they don't work very well. There is a couple of programs. I think the Bayer Company has a set of herbicides that they're suggesting, and the good part of that is that they're specifically developed so that, or timed, I should say, so that they reduce the onset of resistance, which has become very common in wild oats across a spectrum of different chemistry families. But I will say that barley is actually one of the more competitive crops with wild oats. And if you can go to a narrower row, something 6 inches or less, that often is a good solution. And the other one is simply going to something like winter wheat in a rotation, because that definitely inhibits wild oats, and as does no-till. So there are wild oats have become less of a general problem across Montana because of the increased acreage that's in no-till.
Okay. Lori from Belgrade, this is from Dan. He says, my ash trees didn't leaf out until late last summer. Could that possibly be emerald ash borer?
That's a good question. We had, I think it was back in October of 2019, we had a really big freeze, an early freeze, where our ash trees lost pretty much all their leaves. And then we had in 2020, some of our ash trees didn't leaf out till July. But that was not from the emerald ash borer, so that's not a symptom of emerald ash borer infestation.
Okay, we'll come back with some more questions about emerald ash borer. Abby, a viewer from Pinedale, Wyoming. It's good to see viewers are down there in Wyoming. This person has slugs in their garden, and what do they need to do to remedy the problem? Okay.
So there are quite a few things that you can do to remedy slugs in your garden. Slugs thrive in higher moisture conditions, so depending on the types of plants that you have, you can utilize slug control products that you can buy. Make sure that they're labeled for control on the specific crop that you're applying them to, as well as for slugs specifically. You can also, if you utilize mulch at the base of your plants, you're going to minimize the amount of slugs that are going to be on your plants, and then reducing that kind of foliar water application is also going to reduce the impact of the slugs. So making that a healthy growing environment and applying some slug control products will be a pretty simple way to manage slugs in your landscape.
Have you had any experience of using a pan of beer to control slugs?
I have done that for fun, just to try it out, and yes, you do get slugs and quite a few other types of insects as well in those little beer pans.
What if the slugs get drunk, do you suppose?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a slug party.
Okay. Mary, this question is, what is your prognosis on how severe wheat streak mosaic virus is going to be this year? And what are you basing your prognosis on?
Right. So we get the worst wheat streak when we have fall with a lot of infection, and then we get some moisture to help support both the mite and the virus. So a good healthy plant growth means the mite can also grow very well in virus. We did not have very much wheat streak last year, so I don't anticipate a lot of problems this year. And also the drought this spring will help keep the virus down.
So there are some good things about drought then.
Well, I always tell growers that high yield potential means high disease potential, and I think they would prefer some high disease potential right now.
Okay. Bruce from Highwood, this person used dicamba and a very low rate of Tordon 2 years ago to control problem weeds. Can I grow peas now?
That sounds like a dangerous situation. I would definitely not plant a field full of peas right now. What I would do is collect some of the soil and put a bean seed that's viable into those cups or into that soil and let them try to grow. And if they are damaged, then that tells you that you still have either one of those chemistries that are present. So do a bioassay for yourself, and you might save yourself some major damage on your crop. If the beans grow fine, they're ultra sensitive. If they grow fine, then you're probably okay to plant the peas.
We've had some problems around Bozeman with contaminated soil and compost, and I encourage people to do that bean test because it really does work well, and they are very sensitive. Okay, Lori, here's a question that came in this evening from Vida. He has a shelter belt of green ash trees, 25 years old. On the south side of the trees, the bark is peeling off the entire length. No evidence of worms or insects. Do you have any idea what's happening?
The bark's peeling off. Well, it could be one thing. I don't know if he's seen any woodpeckers come to the tree, but we do have another pest called the western ash bark beetle. And it could be that the woodpeckers are coming in and going after that pest underneath the bark and stripping the bark. And that happens a lot with some of our ash trees, but it also could be something abiotic as well.
Okay. Abby, here's a question that came in. My evergreen trees are turning brown at the tips, and most of them look like the branches are dead. What is wrong with them, and what can I do to help them? Came in from Gallatin County. Fairly typical thing in the spring. Any ideas?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have been getting a lot of samples in the Scudder Diagnostic Lab of winter injury, which is what I suspect that this is talking about. And so what happens is when we have these warm winter months with limited snow cover on the ground and limited moisture, then you end up having these evergreen trees transpire and lose that moisture faster than they can recoup it from their roots. And so that ends up affecting the younger needles. So you'll notice the tips of the branches starting to get brown first. And then sometimes entire branches can be affected by this. So the best way to mitigate this, one, you don't necessarily have dead branches, but take a look, do a little bark scrape test to see if those branches are alive. And then watering well into the fall and adding mulch to the base of the tree will help minimize that water loss and make sure that the tree is set up for a healthy winter.
Okay, good idea. Looking 6 months ahead of now. I'm sure we're going to have winter again. Lori from Bozeman, this person wants to know, should they be treating for the emerald ash borer right now?
No, we have not detected the emerald ash borer in the state, and we do not recommend treatment until it's within the vicinity, within about 30 miles of where it's been detected. And this is because some of the treatments that we have, and one of the key treatments, emamectin benzoate, is really an effective treatment. And so we just, even up to about 50% canopy loss. So we recommend that you keep your trees healthy right now. And I think there was an ad in the Bozeman paper a couple of years ago to tell people to start treating for emerald ash borer, and we just do not recommend that. So when it's here, we will spread the word quickly, and we have emerald ash borer response plans for almost all of our cities now. So we are very well prepared for the pest to come in, and we will let everybody know. But there's no reason to do preventive treatments when the pest hasn't been detected in the state.
Do you have any idea at all or any guess on when it might first arrive in Montana?
There's a chance that it could be here already, and it's a lot of the early infestation stages are the trees are asymptomatic, and they found in areas where it's been detected recently, just in Boulder, Colorado, a few years ago, that it's usually in the tree for 4 to 5 years by the time it's detected. So it is very hard to detect early on, and that's why we're doing a lot of monitoring and a lot of outreach about the pest. But it could be here already, and as I said, we do expect it to be here because it's spreading through mostly firewood.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Keep our fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Very good. Bruce, here's a question that's a little bit different. Came in from John and Helena last week. He says, is there actual hard data that shows Montana is warmer now than 25 years ago?
Yes. There's a very definite warming trend in Montana across the last, your choice. You could say 25, 30, 50 years, even over 100 years. So yeah, that it's statistically significant, and so that's one that we're quite confident in, that number. And so, but keep in mind that there's a difference between climate and weather. And so climate we often have is scaled as a 30-year pattern. Weather is what happens day to day. And so we can have a lot of variability in weather. And as we've seen this spring, having quite a cool spring at times, or at least in April, who knows, maybe May will turn to what March should have been. but we get a lot of ups and downs through the year, and that but climate is when we combine those, and usually over space as well. So definitely over the state we've increased, and in fact, interestingly enough, we've increased at about twice the rate of the average in the United States. But that's true for most of the landlocked states, because the oceanic states are buffered by the ocean, which tends to cool them a bit. So we've increased our temperatures greater than many of those states.
Well, I just look at the weather that Bozeman had today, high of 64, tomorrow snow at a high of 32. I don't know whether you call that climate change or not, but it sure makes the weather interesting. Okay, Abby, here's an interesting question for you. This person has trouble with tree roots in his sewer. Do tree roots grow as fast as the above ground part of the tree? Any thoughts on that?
That is a good question. I think that would be dependent on the type of tree that you're dealing with. And most of the time, that spacing beforehand, like when you are incorporating trees in your landscape, is a really important thing to consider, because generally, most of the root system of trees can be concentrated along the drip line of that tree. So when you notice kind of that overall shape of the tree above ground, most of the roots below ground are also reflective of that. So different tree roots will grow at different rates, depending on soil conditions, depending on growing conditions, and depending on the type of plant that you're dealing with as well.
Okay, good. Lori, are you ready for a show and tell?
I am ready. Yeah, I think we could do the show and tell, or we could do the pictures. I'm not sure. I think I will do the show and tell first. So I wanted to show, first off, if anybody has questions about the emerald ash borer, that we have a really good fact sheet that we've put together that you could get on ipm.montana.edu/entomology. And this is a collaborative effort through several different organizations, MSU Extension, the DNRC, and also Don't Move Firewood Campaign, and USDA, MISC, and also the Montana Urban and Community Forestry Association. So this will give you a lot of information on what to look for and what other things other than EAB, emerald ash borer, it might be. And it also has treatment advice on the back here, and something it's a good guide for knowing what to look for. And this is a piece of ash bark, and this shows the emerald ash borer. And the way that the emerald ash borer works is it is a wood-boring beetle, and it'll lay eggs on the outside of the bark here, and the eggs will hatch, and the larvae or the immatures will burrow under the bark. And then they will actually, the way that they damage trees is they will end up feeding on the phloem and the cambium, and by doing that, they will end up girdling the tree, and eventually you'll have branch dieback, canopy dieback, and it'll end up, within about 2 to 4 years, will end up killing the tree. So it takes about 25 to 35 different larvae or immatures per meter square to actually start showing some symptoms, and in about 4 years into the infestation of the tree, then you will start to see death of the tree.
Okay, well, you have some more that we'll come back to later?
Yeah, I think we're going to show some pictures too, so I think that
Okay.
this will probably be the next ones that come on.
Okay, let's go to Abby again from Bozeman. When should she start watering her flower beds? Is it too soon with the onset of cold weather? Really cold weather.
Yeah, I would say I would wait until the temperatures are above 40 degrees in the daytime and there is no snow cover. So with the expected snow coming in, I don't think that you need to be watering your flower beds right now. I would wait until there is no snow cover on the ground and temperatures start to warm up again.
Okay, we'll just wait then. Bruce, this is a question from Bozeman. Purslane, they have lots of it in their garden, but they're told it really doesn't do very much damage, and so we should just ignore it and leave it be. Your comment?
I agree with that statement completely. I think it's a great ground cover. It's a great living mulch. I would not try to get rid of it. In fact, I'd encourage it. I do in my garden.
Wow, that's just what I wanted to hear. We've got a tremendous amount of it in our Gallatin Gardeners Club garden, and we debate back and forth about whether to spend a lot of time cleaning it out or just let it be. And some people would like to even eat it. And I haven't tried that yet, but I understand it's pretty good. Have you eaten it yet?
Yeah, it's quite tasty. You should add it to your salads for sure.
To the salad. Okay, we'll do that. Mary, this is a question about quinoa. I'm not sure I pronounced that right. Quinoa, maybe? It's a new crop for their garden. And can they expect it to be disease-free because it's a brand new crop for their garden, or are they likely to see some disease come in soon?
Yeah, quinoa, I have not seen many diseases here in Montana. A lot of them tend to be root rot, so it really depends on what you've grown previously. That said, it should be a good, fun crop to grow. And, you know, as long as it doesn't get too moist and everything, you should stay away from the foliar blights. I think the biggest problem on quinoa has been a lot of insect pests.
Have you tried growing it yet yourself?
I have not. I've done fava bean, but I just really think it's easy to go to the store and buy quinoa. So.
Okay. Lori, here's a question that came in tonight from Billings. How can she prevent her neighbor's bees in hives from coming into her yard and bothering the kids? She grows lots of flowers. How do you keep the bees out?
Yeah, I wonder if it's, definitely would want to check too if they were wasps and not bees, but because they look pretty similar from a distance. But yeah, I think we just had some questions going back and forth about they might be coming in for a water source. So maybe that neighbor has a water source that's bringing them into the yard. So maybe you could talk to the neighbors about providing their own water source. So I don't know what's bringing them in, but maybe the yard's very attractive. I think it would be very difficult to keep them out. And I mean, they're not going to be aggressive when they're foraging, and if they're not going to be defending their nest. But if they are aggressive, then that might be an indication that it's a wasp or another a bee look-alike.
Good suggestion. I had never even thought about bees being a pest, but maybe they are at times.
Yeah. Usually when they're going after something, they don't seem to be very, very pest-like. But maybe Abby's got something to add as well.
I was just going to say, yeah, it would be pretty difficult to keep the bees away, but as long as, like Lori said, as long as you're not bothering them, they're not going to be bothering you either. But that sounds like you have a beautiful garden that's very attractive to beneficial insects like pollinators. So keep up the great work.
Okay, Abby, as long as we've got you up here, this person would like to know, can they fertilize their lawn now or should they wait? This came from Park County.
So with the upcoming snow that is forecasted in this area specifically, I would say wait to fertilize it until there isn't any snow cover. And a spring fertilizer is a pretty good recommendation, but the earlier that you fertilize, the more mowing you're going to be doing. We discussed this last month as well. So I would wait a little bit before you fertilize your lawn.
Okay. Lori, here's a comment from Billings. She says her 20-year-old ash tree died last year due to emerald ash borer. What do you think?
Well, it would have been really great to maybe look at that tree, because there's a very good chance that there could have been a lot of reasons that the tree died. And we have, in Boulder, they had a tree that was slated for removal, and that's how they found the emerald ash borer. So it could have been, we had a lot of winter kill, and a lot of our ash trees didn't recover at all. So it could be, some of our ash trees are at the end of their lifespan as well. So we can't say for sure what might have happened to that tree, but there's always a chance that it could have been from the emerald ash borer, because as I said, we do expect it to be in the state, but can't say definitively without seeing some of the evidence.
So they should definitely send it into the Scudder Clinic so you can see and confirm it for sure.
Yeah, so it is tricky to confirm that the presence of the pest, because especially we do have the adult beetle, and what we do in the early stages and what we do if we don't see the beetle itself is we look for exit holes from when the beetle emerged, and we also will scale back the bark to look for what we call galleries, and that's what I showed before. That's the beetle feeding and also leaving wood particles like an insect excrement called frass behind. So that's very distinctive. So that's what we do, is we'd peel back the bark and we'd look for evidence of that.
So you indicated earlier that there's quite a plan developed for what happens when the borer does show up. Can you tell us a little bit about what various cities are planning to do?
Yeah, it's going to depend on each city, but we do have the DNRC, the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, put a emerald ash borer statewide plan together, and a lot of the cities put plans together from this statewide plan. And just looking over Bozeman's recently, the goal is to. We're lucky as a state that we can prepare for the pest before its arrival. I mean, Detroit didn't have that option, or Michigan didn't have that option, and so we know that we have some time to prepare for the pest. So most of the city foresters, and give them all a pat on the back, they've done a fantastic job. They've done a lot of inventories to prepare to mark the ash trees, percentage of ash we have in the state, and then also flag some of the trees that should be removed. So they're starting to remove and have been removing trees for years, and then when the pest gets here, they will try to treat all the healthy trees that they can and try to shoot for more treatment of trees rather than removal, because it's more economical to treat rather than remove trees. So most of our trees are city. A lot of our publicly owned ash trees are. A lot of our publicly owned trees are ash trees. So you will see a lot of the cities doing the treatments and the removals. So, but it depends on the city. So I think you'll see a lot of treatment plans involved, and it's gonna and a lot of replanting as well as we prepare for the pest.
So Abby, being a horticulturalist, what are some trees that you would recommend that cities consider to replace the ash tree? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. But I wanted to jump in and ask Lori a follow-up question first, if that's all right.
You bet.
Yeah, so with the stressed trees from the 2019 fall, really cold temperatures that affected them, are emerald ash borers or other insect pests more attracted to trees that are stressed? And how might that impact an infestation in that type of tree?
Yeah, so so since we had a stressful year in 2019 going into 2020, we did see another pest, the western ash bark beetle. We saw a lot of pressure from that pest, but then we also the emerald ash borer will attack healthy trees as well. So it is more attracted to stressed trees because the stressed trees will release volatiles that are more attractive to the pest, but it'll also attack healthy trees. So if emerald ash borer comes into a city, it'll attack all the trees in its vicinity. So preferably stressed trees, but when it has the option, it likes trees in open, sunny areas too. So that's its first point of attack. But yeah, since it's invasive and doesn't have any natural predators with it and no resistance to the pest, we actually will see them hit our healthy trees as well.
And then, thanks so much, Lori. And then, so for alternatives to ash trees, I think that there is a pretty great menu of options for Montana. We have a lot of varieties of trees that you can plant depending on the site conditions, but there's some great options like maple, different types of evergreens like blue spruce. So basically pretty much anything that you are thinking about planting, you can just check the growing zone requirements and make sure that you have the right type of soil and right type of sun exposure for that tree. But there are a wide variety of options for Montana if you are thinking of planting trees in your landscape. But I wouldn't worry about giving up on ash just yet.
Okay. And I would imagine that if the trees have to be replaced in the parking, those are owned by the city will make that decision for you.
Yeah.
Is that the way it works?
Yeah, I think that they're not recommending planting new ash. But they are. I mean, they have right now. They also have in Bozeman, at least, they have a tree share program or cost share program, which is I think it's completed for 2021. But they have a recommended trees on their website as well.
Okay, Lori, this came in from Red Lodge. They said you mentioned an invasive species, emerald ash borer ? From Detroit spreading to 33 states. When it arrives in Montana, what effect will it have on hay, grass, and cattle producers?
It won't have, I mean, unless you have ash trees in your vicinity, it won't really, it's host specific. It just hits ash species only. So anything in the Fraxinus species. So I hope that answered their question okay. But unless you have a shelter belt or something that's providing a lot of shade for the animals, it won't impact any of your production.
Okay. So the emerald ash borer doesn't attack raspberries or alfalfa or wheat or any of these other crops. Pretty much limited to the ash tree?
Just the ash tree, and not mountain ash, because that's not a Fraxinus species. So it's just so that's a Sorbus species. So just Fraxinus species.
It's good to know. Abby, this person would like to know what's the best time to plant and prune raspberries?
So the spring, so right now would be, waiting until the weather is going to be amenable for you to be able to do so and the soil is workable. Spring is a really good time to plant your raspberries. And pruning as well in the spring is a good idea to kind of rejuvenate your plants, thin them out a little bit. Raspberries produce on the second year growth, so if they have produced on canes, you can remove those canes from the plant and kind of thin them out and refresh them for this upcoming year. Fall is another good time, but usually later in the fall when the plant is dormant, ends up being a difficult time to put them into the ground and ends up being pretty late in the season. So spring right now would be a really good time to plant your raspberries and prune them. Okay,
but not in the snow tomorrow. Hopefully not.
No, not unless you're very brave.
Okay. This is a question for Bruce. What do you consider to be the worst weed a gardener must contend with, and what's the most economical way to control them?
Wow, that's the worst weed. That's a tough one. There's plenty. Really depends on where you are in the state, I guess. But I think the one that I hear the most about is actually field bindweed, which is because it crawls up things and it's hard to tell when it's a seedling that it's going to be a vine, and it can be a real challenge. So. And we don't have any really easy way to control it. It's something that you just have to stay on top of and be able to recognize the seedling, because it has a very distinctive leaf shape. You can often pick it out, but that's a tough one. The other ones that are common, I guess, are pigweed and lamb's quarter. They tend to be in all gardens.
Have you had to deal with mallow before?
Oh, mallow, yes.
Yeah.
Mallow. But mallow is, it's interesting because I think Gallatin County is the worst for mallow. I don't hear people in the other parts of the state really complaining as much about it as we do. But mallow is a tough one because it has a really, it produces a lot of seed and it once it's established, it's not an easy one to get rid of. So good for reminding me on the mallow. But like I said, I think we're especially bad here in the Gallatin. It's kind of like Canada thistle is another similar one in our area. But I don't hear as many reports from other parts of the state.
Well, it certainly is a big problem in our Gallatin Gardener Club garden, and it's got a root that's as tough as anything I know to hoe. It's a tough one, and like you say, it produces all these seeds. It just gets worse every year, but we have to deal with it. Lori, this person from Missoula would like us to post the Scudder Plant Diagnostic Lab email, and can you tell us what that is? How can people get a hold of you via email?
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is, I'll give you my easiest email. It's insects@montana.allspelledout.edu, or I think my other email might be popping up there too, lauren.kurzenek montana.edu. So, but insects@montana.edu is the best way to get in touch with me personally. There we go. Yeah.
Do you have any more show and tell? Have we gone through all of those?
I did want to show this one branch sample that we have here. This is the Western ash bark beetle, and this is a common pest that we have here in Montana, and it is not the emerald ash borer. So if you're just tuning in, just know that this is not damage from the emerald ash borer. So this is a bark beetle, and the exit holes are kind of shot hole size. And this is a pest that we've had established in the state for many years. And we've had, it's a little bit of our stress trees. It's gotten a little bit worse. And so we've seen, last year we saw a lot of woodpecker damage, a lot of woodpeckers going off of and stripping through the bark and actually going after the immature or larval stages of the beetle. And so we did lose some trees to the Western ash bark beetle this past year. But just to this is a pest that is common in the state. And I just wanted to show too that we have each county agent and reservation should have one of these emerald ash borer kits. And so if you have a homeowner or client that comes into the office, within this kit you have a piece of bark that shows some damage from the emerald ash borer. There's an adult emerald ash borer in a vial, and also a larval stage of the immature of the emerald ash borer inside this box. And so this gives you kind of a good reference sample to look for the emerald ash borer.
Okay. Mary, a question about pulse crops. What's your prognosis for diseases on our pulse crops, our peas and chickpeas and things like that? Any idea what might be developing this year?
Luckily, we had a pretty dry year last year. We're not seeing a lot of disease issues on the seed coming into the regional pulse crop diagnostic lab. We're starting to see a little bit of an uptick in botrytis of chickpea, which is fairly persistent. It forms a sclerotia, and you just want to rotate away from that. Most pulse growers should be rotating 3 to 4 years between every pulse, and a lot of the dicots are particularly susceptible to botrytis. Use a good seed treatment if you're a conventional producer, and keep an eye on the crop, especially after that first flower and that canopy closure, and if you've had a lot of moisture.
Do you have any thoughts on what the acreages are going to be like this year? Are they going to be up or down?
I have not seen the prospective planting report yet. I assume peas are going to be up, lentils hopefully pretty stable, and I'm not quite sure where chickpeas go. Peas might be up because the Chinese market bought quite a bit last year for the protein use in noodles and other uses. We're increasing the amount of chickpeas we grow because we have increased consumption in the domestic market. And COVID-19 was actually very good for shelf-stable legumes such as pulses.
Okay, well, hopefully the growers will respond and produce accordingly. Okay, Bruce, this person has weeds in their asparagus bed. Any suggestions?
Wow.
Well, that's a tough one, isn't it?
It is a tough one because asparagus can come up so rapidly. If you're early enough, you can treat weeds that come up before the asparagus with Roundup. But boy, be careful if they're showing at all, you'll kill them. So that's a dangerous one. But chemically, there's not a lot of options that I know of anyway that are registered. But again, I'm not exactly a herbicide expert. I think I'd contact Tim Seipel on that one. I don't know if we have his number. I don't have it at the tip of my tongue here. But you can probably get it through the Scudder Diagnostic Lab as well, and they might be able to make a recommendation. But
hey, Bruce.
Yeah.
I have asparagus with really bad weeds as well, and I do a lot of mulching to try and suppress those early season seedlings. and try to keep it as clean as possible. I usually do like a glyphosate spray in like February when you get those warm days, and just try to get it way before the asparagus is going to emerge. Maybe even about now. My ground's frozen, so the asparagus has no hope of emerging yet, but there's quite a few grasses coming up, so it's probably a good time. But I'm in a cold area of Bozeman, and just trying to really suppress those little seedlings. And then the asparagus is so, there's so much shade that it really suppresses a lot of the weeds. But yeah, getting in there with a hoe during the field during the season is just kind of heck. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Lori from Bozeman, is it too early to put up wasp traps for the queen? Tell us a little about queens and wasps. What's going on here?
Yeah, it is. What they're probably asking about is the Western yellow jacket traps, and there are yellow traps. They're colored yellow, but they're traps available for Western yellow jackets and for Vespula species, which is what the Western yellow jacket is, and they're baited with heptylbutyrate, and that will attract the queens early on, and so every trap queen of the Western yellow jacket will prevent a nest from establishing, because every year they make a new nest. And it is just a little bit early. I usually, if you're in the Bozeman area, I usually try to have mine out by Memorial Day. So they won't be out for a little while. It's never really too early. So maybe if you want to think about mid-May, but that lure that you put in there, it really only lasts. It depends on which one you get. Some last for 3 months, some last for a month. So it will make, if you put the lure in there, it won't last as long.
Where do you get the lures?
You could get them at any of the hardware stores or garden stores, and they're pretty. They'll say for yellow jacket traps, and
Okay.
it's pretty much it's the same lure that goes in each of the traps, but some of the trap designs are just a little bit different. But they all work the same.
Okay, Bruce from Billings. Any suggestions for morning glory control in pastures?
That's an interesting one as well. That another very difficult weed, as I said before, in the gardens even. A tough one in pastures. It's interesting. We don't see it as much in pastures. It kind of depends on what other species you have in that pasture. For example, if it's a mix of alfalfa and grasses, for example, that could be makes it difficult to make a herbicide recommendation. But there are herbicides that will take it out. I think dicamba, and there are some others that picloram, I think, is another one you can use at low rates. But they won't kill the grasses, but they'll probably significantly impact the rest of your dicots or your broadleaf species. So really have to know what you're managing for there, and if you have a mixed dicot and monocot community, i.e. grasses and broadleaf, then your herbicide options pretty much go away, and you're looking at probably mowing. Real consistent mowing, if you can get it, every 18 to 21 days, and you have to do it all summer long till the end of August, and then you can really deplete the underground structures that support the rhizomes and lateral roots in the morning glory. So not an easy one to deal with, and it's showing up more and more, I think, especially as we have reduced tillage, even in cropping systems, and certainly organic growers. It's one of the top weeds that they're trying to deal with. There's some research going on over in Corvallis, Montana, on the population dynamics of field bindweed, the morning glory species. So they should might want to contact Zach Miller there at the Corvallis Research Center, Western Montana Research Center. So he probably has the most up-to-date information.
Okay, Abby, here's a question that's very pertinent right now. Is there any advantage to planting bare root fruit trees versus ball and burlap trees? Cost, convenience, what's your thoughts on this?
So I would say it would depend on availability at your local nurseries, and that cost factor is going to be important for bare root versus the B&B balled and burlap trees. Balled and burlap trees usually can take off a little bit faster than the bare root trees, and are probably available a little bit earlier than the bare root ones, but it would depend on what type of tree it is and kind of what your budget is going in, how many you want to incorporate into your landscape. But there are benefits to both of these types of fruit trees in your landscape.
Okay, it's very pertinent. It's time of the year. I know people are trying to get those fruit trees in. Lori, I think we didn't cover this yet. It says, does the emerald ash borer kill the tree, or does a fungus that goes with it, the borer, actually kill the tree? Like with Dutch elm disease, it's spread by a beetle, but it's the fungus that it really is killing the tree. Same thing true with emerald ash borer?
Not the same thing with emerald ash borer. So it does not carry a fungus, and so it's actually the girdling of the tree and the way that it constricts the movement of nutrients and water that's actually killing the tree. So in this case, it is not carrying another fungus that kills the tree.
Okay, Bruce, we're back to weeds again. This person says the weeds in my garden just seem to be getting worse every year. Should I just give up gardening for a year and cover the entire area with black plastic? If not, then what do you recommend?
Don't give up.
Don't give up, okay.
No, well, okay, let's start with the black plastic. I don't think that's, you're probably better to use clear plastic, if anything, if you're going to go to the plastic route. But I don't think you need to do that. I think mulching, as Mary had suggested, is a sound way to deal with a lot of the weeds, and gives you a good start. And active weeding. I mean, I guess it depends on how much production you want. I find many people that have, the same people say, oh, I've got a terrible weed problem. But then I ask that, one of the questions I always like to ask is, did you eat all the vegetables that you produced? And usually they say, no, we had so many vegetables, we couldn't eat them all. So I say, well, share some of those nutrients with the weeds. You don't need to produce it.
Okay, I like that. Abby, here's a question about, she says, if I didn't get my potatoes planted on Good Friday, is it too late to plant them now? And if I delayed planting them until mid-June, would this be too late? Kind of the early and late on potatoes.
Yeah, I think if that's a tough call. Where are they located?
They're located here in the Gallatin Valley.
Okay, so I would say if you didn't get them planted in Good Friday, you can still plant them now. You might have mixed results with what you're able to produce, but waiting until midsummer might be a little bit warm to plant your potatoes into the ground.
Okay, so better to get them in mid-May perhaps. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Lori, what are you predicting for any insect outbreaks in Montana this year? Anything special to look out for?
Yeah, I'm not very good at the predictions. It's different every year. I think since we had a high grasshopper year, I think we're going to have another high grasshopper year, but that depends on a lot of the spring conditions, and they need a wet spring, but they also need the grass to dry out after that, so they're not killed by a lot of fungi. But so I think we're going to have a high grasshopper year, and it just depends on what happens in the next few months. I don't know.
I know, and that's true of all of us trying to make these predictions in Montana. Abby, with just a couple of seconds, what's your favorite new vegetable that's showing up this year for a gardener to plant?
So I'm a big fan of beets in general, and there are so many cool varieties of beets out there I didn't even realize. Just all sorts of colors, beautiful yellow beets and things like that. So if people don't grow beets, I would say definitely give it a try. There are a lot of really cool beet varieties for you to try. It's like a rainbow of just beets.
Okay, we'll take that up. Well, folks, we're down to the end of our time here tonight. Many thanks to all of you that called in your questions for tonight. Thanks to our